News Network, D-Triple-X Zamboanga, D-Triple-X Zamboanga. This is Radio Philippines Network, D-Triple-X Zamboanga, D-Triple-X Zamboanga. The Great 108.
Suena, balance, mafuerza. Este el RPND Triple X, Radio Ronda Zamboanga. RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radio Ronda.
D-Triple-X Zamboanga.
Kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
108. D-Triple-X Zamboanga, wherever you want it, we've got it covered in the Philippines' largest network. This is Radio Philippines Network, the power, the first, the leader. Solid for news and information, public service and entertainment. This is D-Triple-X, NOA kilohertz of Zamboanga. Was a leader, D-Triple-X Zamboanga. Now.
RPN Radio Philippines Network, Radio Ronda.
D-Triple-X Zamboanga.
Kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Of an invasion. And it's Tuesday. Netizens share what they think of the so-called angel number. The country lists its lowest daily COVID-19 infections this year. The health department says there are 1,019 additional cases. The country has seen the lowest daily tallies for 2022 in the past 4 days. All fallen below 2,000. There are more than 56,600 people currently sick with COVID, nearly 3,000 new survivors and 13 deaths. The DOH says 5 testing laboratories did not submit data, adding that the numbers are based on laboratory outputs from Sunday, which traditionally has the lowest per week. Now, the Independent Optum Research Group says Metro Manila's COVID-19 positivity rate is now down to 4.9% for the first time this year. The positivity rate is the percentage of tested people with positive results. The World Health Organization has set a benchmark of below 5% for at least 2 weeks for countries or regions to reopen. Opta's Guido David says Metro Manila last saw positivity rate this low on December 26 last year. Well, that was before the start of the surge driven by the highly contagious Omicron variant. Despite the encouraging data, Opta says Metro Manila remains at low risk for COVID-19 transmission. For the capital region or any other area can shift to alert level 1. The health department says 80% of senior citizens and persons with comorbidities should be fully vaccinated. It says this is to ensure the population is protected against further virus transmission once the majority of restrictions are gone.
Dati po, ang atin pong nire-require lang was just 70% for senior citizens. Ngayon, tinaasa na po to 80% kasi mataas na po ang bakunahan natin. Marami na po tayong bakuna sa ngayon. So, hindi na po natin kailangan magkaroon ng rason kung bakit mababa pa rin pagdating sa ating mga nakakatanda at sa ating mga persons with comorbidities. The very reason why we are having this kind of target, increased target for senior citizens and those with comorbidities, dahil alam po natin sila po yung pinaka-vulnerable pagdating sa COVID-19. At gusto natin, pag tayo ay nag-de-escalate to alert level 1, yung new normal natin, protektado po itong mga vulnerable population.
As of Tuesday, 3 million senior citizens and people with comorbidities are still unvaccinated. Establishment and transportation capacities may operate at full capacity, subject to minimum public health standards. Under a an alert level 1 status. So far, at least 5 mayors here in Metro Manila say they will vote for the least restrictive alert level status. They among them, San Juan's Francis Zamora, Toby Tiangco of Navotas, Edwin Olivares of Parañaque, Miguel Ponce of Pateros, and Joel Belmonte of Quezon City. All mayors are scheduled to meet tonight to discuss the matter. Now, the government recalibrating its COVID-19 vaccination strategy. Vaccine czar Carlito Galvez explains the number of doses administered per day has dropped from 1 million to less than 500,000. Galvez also notes the low turnout in the recent national vaccine days. Authorities will now be doing house-to-house vaccinations and bringing inoculation sites closer to those who still need it. The government also scrambling to convince those who have received their complete primary dose series to take booster shots. President Duterte joins the appeal. Here's the president in his own words.
Pag-booster dose na kayo para ang karagdagang proteksyon laban sa COVID-19, lalo na sa mga variant nito tulad ng Omicron. Huwag kayong mga mukha dahil ang ating bakuna ay pinag-aralang mabuti ng ating mga eksperto. Ito ay garantisadong dekalidad, ligtas, at higit sa lahat, epektibo, at mabubuhay ka. Yung hindi na magkabakuna, sigurado patay. Sigurado patay ng panahon. Tigkas ang ulo.
So far, 62.5 million Filipinos have been fully vaccinated. That is 69% of the 90 million target population. More than 50 commuters got boosted against COVID-19 as the LRT2 kicks off its vaccination drive at the Recto station in Manila. Light Rail Transit Authority Administrator Jerry Rahino says most vaccinees received their third dose. Commuters will get vaccinated at the Recto station on select days tomorrow. LRT2 will open its vaccination site at the Antipolo station. We're flashing the schedule on your screen. Another inoculation site may soon rise in Cubao station. Vaccinees are urged to pre-register online so screeners can provide you the appropriate vaccine brand. Registration sites are flashed on your screens.
Pwede po mga walk-in po. Kaya lang ho, pag walk-in ho nila, magre-register ho sila use online ho doon sa vaccination site. Pagkatapos ho, they will wait for the QR code, tapos saka ho sila pwedeng magpabakuna na ho. But it will not take time ho dahil madali lang naman po magparehistro at hindi naman ho gaano ang pila. Kaya huwag ho sila mag-aalala kung walking ho sila. Baka hindi naman gaano katagal ang kanilang pila.
World headlines now. The United States slamming Russia after its troops entered separatist regions of eastern Ukraine. U.S. Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, dismisses as nonsense the claim of Russia that it deployed forces in what it called a peacekeeping mission. Western leaders cautioned the latest move could mark the beginning of an invasion that they have been warning about for weeks. CNN's Isabel Rosales has more.
U.S. intelligence and satellite images reveal Russia going full speed ahead with military preps.
Today might be that day, and we hope that's not the case, which is why we continue to exhaust every possible diplomatic option here going forward.
In a TV broadcast, Russian President Vladimir Putin accusing the West of threats. The Russian president says he is officially recognizing the separatist regions in Ukraine as independent states, airing his grievances about the breakup of the former Soviet republics.
More than Ukraine from the beginning, and its territory has been created by Russia.
U.S. and allies warn every indication shows Russia is preparing to invade.
These are not the actions of the Russian government fulfilling its repeated declarations that it has no intention of invading Ukraine.
The U.S. also says it has credible information about a Russian kill list, writing in a letter to the United Nations that Russia is identifying Ukrainians to be killed or sent to camps. The Kremlin denying the claim, calling it absolute fiction.
We believe that any military operation
escalation of the size, scope, and magnitude of what we believe the Russians are planning will be extremely violent. It will cost the lives of Ukrainians and Russians, civilians and military personnel alike.
The Russian escalation at the front lines is at odds with what Putin has said publicly. Putin agreeing to a summit with President Joe Biden.
He can do the right thing by finding a diplomatic path forward.
Biden accepting on the condition Russia not invade Ukraine. In Washington, Isabel Rosales.
The U.S. and the European Union are set to impose sanctions on Moscow following the unacceptable entry of its troops. Coming up, presidential aspirant Manny Pacquiao asserts his leadership in PDP Laban as his fellow hopeful Isko Moreno seeks the party's endorsement. And as the country faces a leadership transition in the coming months, we look back at the historic People Power Revolution of 1986 that changed the nation's political course. Details after the break.
Ngayong pandemic, serving others is the best. Sa pagtutulungan, patuloy ang ating laban sa buhay.
Always healthy. With proper diet, exercise, and MX3 coffee mix to ignite my day. Hi guys! Lagi akong focus, active, and extraordinary. Because the most important things in life deserve nothing less. MX3 coffee mix, my choice.
Welcome back to Newsnight. PNP Chief General Jonard Carlos in hot water following a fatal chopper crash in Real, Quezon on Monday. A policeman died and 2 others, the pilots, were injured in the incident. The PNP helicopter was on its way to Balasin Island to fetch Carlos and his family from a vacation after their commercial flight was cancelled. Malacanang cannot say for now if Carlos is accountable pending investigation by the Interior Department.
Kami po ay nakikiramay sa pamilya ng isang crew member na namatay dahil sa crash na ito at we wish the 2 injured a speedy recovery. We will await the report of the DILG. It is currently being investigated.
Despite running under a different party, presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao argues he is still the president of PDP Laban after rival Manila Mayor Isko Moreno sought the ruling party's endorsement. CNR can help with that story.
Senator Manny Pacquiao insists he's still the president of PDP Laban and all matters related to endorsing a presidential bet should go through him. This as his fellow presidential candidate, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, expressed his desire to get the backing of the party of President Duterte. Pacquiao filed his candidacy under the Promdi Party amid infighting with the PDP Laban faction led by Energy Secretary Alfonso Cusi. There's a pending petition before the Commission on Elections seeking to declare Pacquiao and his allies as illegitimate officials of PDP Laban.
Ang presidente ng partido, so dadaan din sa akin lahat yan. Antayin lang natin kung may mga lumapit sa atin na gustong sumuporta.
Cusi, however, says seeking Laban's endorsement comes with strings attached. In a statement, he says the candidates supported by the party should commit to continuing Duterte's programs. Despite the infighting, Pacquiao says he's open to reuniting with the Cusi faction. But Senator Coco Pimentel, whose late father was one of the party's founders, shuts the door of reconciliation with Cusi. He warns there are consequences for the candidate who will accept the endorsement of the Cusi faction.
Para na si those who actively seek Cusi's endorsement should pay the political price kung dating ng panahon. Ganun lang yun. Kaya mag-ingat sila. Malok na kami. Ang tunay na PDP Laban, nun malok na.
meron na kami for President Manny Pacquiao, for Vice President, his choice, who is now dito at Chelsea.
With Duterte still mum on the candidate he will endorse, Pacquiao says he's counting on the support of the masses to help him win the presidency in May. Cian Arcangel, CNN Philippines.
On to other presidential aspirants, Senator Ping Lacson and his running mate Tito Soto get the support of former Senator and DICT Secretary Gringo Anasan. Anasan is also part of the senatorial slate of the Marcos Duterte youth team and is one of the senatorial vets who President Duterte had endorsed. Vice President
ng ating lipunan, ng ating demokrasya ay kaayusan. Yan po ang plataforma at programa ni Senador Ping Lacson at ni Senator Tito Soto. Kailangan pagkatapos ng halalan, magkaisang muli.
Hindi ko napagil yung sarili ko yakapin sa kanina kasi nang makita ko nakasama din sa amin sa tablado, talagang it was really a pleasant surprise. No? Dahil alam niyo naman, di ba, Senate, kami yung talaga original na March of Black. At welcome.
Vice President Leni Robredo says there is still more that needs to be done for Marawi City. She notes while the Office of the Vice President has provided assistance for the war-torn city since the start, she only has limited resources. Some of her projects in Marawi include the construction of houses and schools. As for the vice presidential candidates, Dr. Willie Ong says he will continue his campaign even if some groups are pairing his running mate, Isko Moreno, with Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte. Moreno's team, for its part, says Ong is the Manila Mayor's only vice presidential bet.
Para sa akin kasi, focus lang ako sa kailangan kong gawin eh. So tuloy-tuloy tayo hanggang May. Dahil walang atrasan to. Wala akong galit sa puso ko kasi hindi siya makakatulong eh.
Sara Duterte vows the fair enforcement of the war on drugs and criminality as she looks to continue the campaign of her father, President Duterte, if she wins the vice presidency. She also said the nationwide crime rate dropped under the Duterte administration. That statement comes amid backlash from human rights groups and international organizations with the thousands of deaths under the drug war.
Ang gagawin natin is kung ano yung ginawa natin doon sa Davao City, i-emphasize natin sa ating mga law enforcement agencies, particularly sa ating mga kapulisan sa Philippine National Police natin na ang unang-unang trabaho nila isang pantay-pantay na enforcement ng ating batas. That is the reason why Davao City is awarded one of the best city police office dahil naiintindihan nila kung ano yung mga dapat nila gawin, particularly against anti-criminality.
And the wife of Senator Kiko Pangilinan, megastar Sharon Cuneta, lends star power to his campaign sortie in Tarlac City. Various farmers' groups expressed support for Robredo and Pangilinan during their visit. For the first time this election season, we will see almost all presidential candidates share one stage for a much-awaited in-person debate. 9 out of 10 candidates are joining the CNN Philippines presidential debate on February 27, Sunday, at the University of Santo Tomas in Manila. Former Senator Bongbong Marcos declined to join because of a conflict in schedule, while his running mate, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte, turned down our request for her to participate in the vice presidential debate, but gave no reason. Deputy Speaker Lito Atienza will also not attend as he will undergo knee replacement surgery. 7 other candidates will participate in the VP debate this Saturday, February 26, also at UST. Join us as we remain committed to helping the Filipino make informed decisions on May 9th. We need answers from the men and the woman who are seeking the highest office of the land. Unedited, unfiltered, coming soon. A CNN Philippines special presentation of the Filipino 2022 presidential debate. The Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, or CBCP, also pitches in to help you choose who to vote for in the upcoming polls. Caloocan Bishop and CBCP President Pablo Virgilio says I think that should be probably. Says a fitting president is one with integrity, is patriotic, and has the moral high ground. He or she must also be able to give a voice to the poor and the vulnerable and stand for what is right. CBCP has not endorsed the presidential candidate, but offered this set of criteria to further help Filipino voters choose the right leader.
Number one, ang mabuting Kristiyano ay boboto ng tama at ayon sa konsensya. Siya ay boboto para sa kandidatong may tunay na determinasyon na matigil na ang illegal gambling, ang illegal drug trade, ang illegal lottery, ang illegal mining, ang iba pang mga industriya na nakasinsila sa ating kalikasan, sa kultura at mabuting pagpapahalaga ng mga Pilipino. Siya ay boboto para sa pagpapatuloy sa tunay na diwa ng People Power Revolution na nag-restore ng demokrasya sa ating bansa.
February 22, 1986 was the start of the four-day People Power Revolution that toppled the dictatorial regime of then-President Ferdinand Marcos. 36 years on and ahead of an upcoming national elections in May, continuing the story and legacy of EDSA remains a struggle. Our Tristan Naballo reports.
Filipinos from all walks of life showed the world on February 1986 that unity was possible to oust a dictatorship. The bloodless and peaceful revolution known as EDSA People Power showcased what Filipinos can do as one. 36 years on, a political analyst says Filipinos will never forget the story of EDSA.
The EDSA revolution of 1986 is already part of our political DNA as a nation. Because EDSA represents not just a revolution against a dictatorship, nor it represents the sentiment of the people.
Aris Arugay adds the EDSA legacy will keep Filipinos determined to demand good governance from their elected leaders, and at the same time be on guard against efforts to downplay the historic uprising.
They're afraid that the Filipino will again feel empowered against abusive, corrupt politicians. So they try to undermine it. They try to say that it has failed.
Besides the people's support to immunity, EDSA has been associated with the ousted leader, the late former President Ferdinand Marcos. But over the last 3 decades, the Marcos family is back in the political limelight, with the only son and namesake, Bongbong Marcos, bidding for the presidential seal behind the family name.
Puro kasi pagpapasama ang ginawa nila. Puro pambubugbog sa mga Marcos. Ang tawag nga namin dyan, pagdating sa eleksyon, nanalo siya, destiny ka po yan.
Supporters believe in the Marcos slogan.
Yung kanyang panawagan na magkaroon ng pagkaisa tayo, pagkakaisa, unity. Napakaganda ng kanyang hangarin.
But for those who lived through the regime and witnessed EDSA, a Marcos return to power would mean something else.
Kailangan talaga natin pero hindi si Marcos ang leader na makakapag-unite sa taong bayan. In fact, kung manalo siya, our country will continue to be torn apart.
Bonnie Hilagan says he will continue his fight to prevent the return of the Marcoses in Malacanang and to keep retelling the story of EDSA. But he admits the task is daunting.
Teacher ko nung nagsimulang lumaban sa diktadurang Marcos. Long-hair ako noon, Tristan. Ngayon, I'm more than 70 years old. I lost my hair. But I think I've not lost my commitment. To fight the restoration of Marcos.
Today, a new generation of Filipinos have different views about EDSA People Power.
Depende. Kung ano paniniwala mo, bubuhay siya. Pero kung i-let go mo na, wala na. Para sa amin, pwede nang Parang patay ng EDSA.
For some analysts, the story of EDSA is a work in progress that goes beyond political personalities and dynasties. They say that the EDSA story is about people who keep democracy and governance alive. Tristan Nodalo, CNN Philippines.
Tarlac's 1st District Representative Charlie Cojuangco has died. He was 58. Cojuangco's wife, Gina Hocson Cojuangco, announced his passing in a Facebook post this morning. Cause of death was not disclosed. Cojuangco reportedly suffered an aneurysm in a circuit race in October last year. The congressman was the son of the late businessman and sports patron Eduardo Danding Cojuangco Jr. Still on news now, America's Got Talent contestant Nightbird dies after a bout with cancer. And to find out why today's date, February 22, 2022, is sparking the interest of many. Stay tuned.
I'm unstoppable today. I'm unstoppable today.
Your vote, your voice, our future.
Demokratiko tayong bansa. Ito lang yung paraan natin para mailabas kung anong saloobin natin. Kaya kahit isang boto lang yan, bumoto ka. Kaya napaka-importante yung boto mo. Kasi boses mo yan.
Bilang isang volunteer sa election, sobrang halaga ng participation. Doon magagampanan ng mga teachers kasi kami yung magpapacilitate nitong botohan. So kami ang magbibilang, mag-aayos, napakabigat.
Welcome back to News Night. Here's another update on the investigation into the PNP helicopter crash in Real, Quezon yesterday. A policeman died, 2 others. The pilots were injured in the incident. The PNP helicopter was on its way to Balasin Island to fetch PNP Chief General Jonah Carlos and his family from vacation after their commercial flight was cancelled. Malacanang cannot say for now if Carlos is accountable for any investigation by the Interior Department. In a statement, Carlos says his request for an administrative flight to transfer him back to Camp Crame was allowed and issued based on PNP regulations. Carlos also says he regrets the accident happened and vows a thorough investigation will be conducted. Sports news now. South Korea has withdrawn from the February window of the 2023 FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers 2 days before the first games in Manila. South Korean news outlet Jumpball reports the player tested positive for COVID-19, leaving the other 12 as close contacts. The team was originally set to face Gilas Pilipinas on Thursday, February 24, and again next Monday, February 28. And the singer who stole the hearts of audiences and judges of America's Got Talent, Jane Marczewski, or Nightbird, has died. Marczewski succumbed to cancer on Sunday. The breakout star became a fan favorite in the show last year after performing her original song, It's Okay. This earned her a golden buzzer from Simon Cowell, letting Nightbird advance through the live shows. But she had to leave the show to focus on her battle with cancer.
Now, and I wrote a little bit
of it in my caption when I had to share this bad news, and it's pretty beat up, but I still got dreams. And the chorus of the song goes, I still got some magic in me. I don't feel it, but I still believe. The music stopped, but I can still sing. I'm pretty beat up, but I still got dreams.
The America's Got Talent franchise, as well as hosts Terry Crews and Heidi Klum, paid tribute to Nightbird on social media. Marczewski was 31. But back here at home, in the movies, megastar Sharon Cuneta will soon show off her skills in a Hollywood film based on the award-winning book The Mango Bride. Sharon reposted an article from entertainment outlet Variety confirming her role. The actress will also be an executive producer of the movie, which she hopes will open doors for more Pinoys in the film industry abroad. Today's date, February 22, 2022, has caught the attention of netizens. People call the sequence of tunes as an angel number, which is said to contain messages from the spiritual universe. The number 2, linked to balance and harmony, may symbolize a time of peace and stability. But for some netizens, the amusing repetition simply means good fortune for the day. This person is hoping to win big with the day's luck by betting on the lottery. Another netizen says the day has yet to work its magic on them, but they're not giving up on gaining balance this February 22. And for some, it is a special day for other reasons. This birthday celebrant only wishes for a good outcome in the May polls, so only the best leaders for the country are elected. Well, here's to a happy and harmonious Tuesday for all of us, and that is it for now. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. and on Politics as usual at 8:30 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Welcome back to the Final Word on CNN Philippines. I'm Rico Hizon. You still have with us for Outpost Senator A former Ifugao congressman seeks to represent indigenous people as he guns for a Senate seat in next year's polls. Let's get up close with senatorial aspirant Teddy Baguila. Teddy, thank you so much for joining us. You were elected a lawmaker in 2010, and before Congress, you served as Ifugao governor for 2 terms and as a mayor from 1995 to the year 2000. Bakit mo gustong tumakbo para sa Senado?
Well, as you mentioned, I would like to represent the indigenous people or the sectors who normally do not have adequate and effective representation in the Senate. Kasi if you look at the profile of the Senate, that's the political elite that we have in the Philippines. A lot of political dynasties, big business, celebrities. But we don't have voices from the marginalized, indigenous peoples included. Kasama na rin din yung mga magsasaka. Because while I'm not claiming to be a farmer, but I have fought for agrarian reform beneficiaries' rights, rights of persons with disabilities, in the bills that I pushed in Congress. So sa akin, this is a fight for people who do not normally have a strong voice in the Senate.
So, Teddy, ano masasabi mo sa mga kandidato who say they represent marginalized groups but they're not members of this group?
Yes, precisely. That's also the reason why we don't have a lot of progressive laws being passed in the Senate, because the interests are mostly with the elite, the people who are in power both politically and economically. Kaya nga, if we need, for instance, to solve the problems of the agricultural sector, kadalasan the solution is band-aid solutions like rice tariffication. But we don't address the roots of the problem, which is one-to non-conversion of prime agricultural lands, which is the lack of agricultural investments in the agricultural sector in terms of infrastructure, in terms of credit assistance and capacity building to farmers. That requires very progressive legislation that addresses systemic problems within the industry. Pero sa ngayon, because the people who are in the Senate are supposed to be passing legislation to address problems problems of various sectors are there to protect their own interests, which is political dynasties and big business.
And you mentioned about the agricultural industry, no? This comprises a large chunk of our economy. At ang ating mga magsasaka, Teddy, have been suffering due to this COVID-19 pandemic. What should the government do to crack down on smuggled vegetables coming from China, which leaves Filipino farmers at the losing end?
Yeah, that's very important, no? Fighting smuggling, which is not just a recent phenomenon. It has happened in the past. Every time na bumapasok ng smuggled Chinese goods, no? Ang kawawa talaga is the farmers directly. Especially from my region, because my region, the Cordilleras, produces vegetables, highland vegetables for Metro Manila market. So I think there has to be a stronger enforcement of the laws. It's a matter really of enforcing the law. No? There's always a law against smuggling. So, kailangan palakasin pa natin yung pag-prevent natin ng smuggled goods. Also, at the same time, I think it's high time that we look into the industry as a whole, the vegetable industry, because it isn't really resilient at all. No? It's always subject to climatic changes, to natural disasters, to smuggling. Even in terms of the food supply chain, no? Ang mga gardeners, they're subject to the machinations of traders. And I'm not saying we should do away with traders, but the problem is with our food supply chain, there are just so many layers of trading. Kaya from the market, let's say 20 pesos ang presyo ng isang kamatis, ilang layers of trading ang pagdadaanan niya. Finally, when it reaches the market, it's so expensive. So, lugi yung farmers because the traders dictate the prices and lugi rin yung consumer. So, again, we have to look into the systemic causes of the problems of the agricultural industry.
At saka sa importation at saka sa smuggling na ito, no, Teddy, maraming sa ating mga kababayang magsasaka ang nawawalan ng hanap buhay, and many of them have lost their jobs. And of course, during this pandemic, many of our Filipino kababayans have also lost their jobs in many other industries. And right now, the economy is still weak and faces a long road to recovery. If you become senator, how will you try to jumpstart the economy and create jobs through legislation?
Well, nabanggit naman ni VP Lenny yung programa natin. Immediate na ayuda muna sa mga magsaka. I think that's important. There are lots of businesses who have shut down a lot, especially small and medium enterprises. So yun yung talagang kinakailangan bigyan muna ng support, no? Bailout, no? You might say so. And ganun rin doon sa mga farmers na affected by this rice tarification. So double whammy. Rice tarification, prices of palay. Sabi nga ng isang kausap ko na magsasaka, it's no longer profitable for them to continue farming, and then tinamaan pa ng pandemic. So we need to provide them with immediate assistance, no? And then, as I've said, look at the systemic problems, no, of the agricultural industry. Land conversion is one. In terms also of a major investment program in agriculture in terms of infrastructure. In my 9 years as a congressman and also 15 years, no, in the local governments, wala pa ako nakakita talaga ng malaking investment program in agriculture. I remember we have roads to tourism areas. Okay, help the tourism industry. We even have roads for small and medium enterprises. Pero our farm-to-market roads, wala. Our irrigations, a lot of our agricultural lands are not irrigated the whole year round.
Pero Teddy, korupsyon, problema rin ba ito sa agrikultura?
Definitely. Corruption is pervasive everywhere, whether it's in industry.
Paano ba natin lalabanan ito? How do we fight it?
Well, ang importante muna is the leadership. That's very important because it begins, we're very personality-oriented. Ang laki ng ating tiwala sa Pangulo, whoever is elected as President, no? We place unto herself, no, the challenge of eradicating corruption, no, in the Philippines. Well, I always believe that corruption is dictated by our current political culture. No? Pero leadership really begins at the top. Because that's how we view our politicians. So if we're going to eradicate corruption, it begins first with the president. And then we have to look into our officials, the officials that we elect. And then the bureaucracy follows after. Because sometimes sa ating kaugalian, may mga nagkasabi na ang corruption, bahagi na yan ng kultura natin, which is not true. No? But yung mga give and take, yung pakisama, those are the things I've noticed in my years in government. It's very, very difficult to fight that culture of corruption because people equate it as something that is a Filipino value, which is not. That's why sa akin, it really begins at the top, and then we have to look now into laws that will provide or will strengthen more transparency in government. Kaya isang ang pinutulak ko, Rico, is freedom of information. It's something that I think would be able to engender more citizen participation in governance and be able to prevent instances of corruption. Kasi ang nangyayari sa Pilipinas, corruption happens and then we investigate it. But if we have a law, progressive law such as FOI, then the citizens will have access to information about government transactions. So sa simula pa lamang, we might be able to prevent acts of corruption.
Yung pet dog mo dyan sa bahay, tumatahol, Teddy. I think you really truly agrees with all the issues that you are sharing with us. Apart from agriculture, you have also been a champion for different progressive advocacies on women, LGBTQI+. How do you plan to further these initiatives in the Senate?
Well, there's this anti-discrimination bill that I've called for in the House of Representatives, yung sexual orientation and gender identity and expression law. Maandar sa House pero hindi masyado sa Senado. So I think that's something that I will continue fighting for in the Senate. There's also this general anti-discrimination law, not just for the LGBT, but for all sectors who feel that they are marginalized or they are discriminated upon. Kasama na dyan ang katutubo, even senior citizens, persons with disabilities. So this is a general anti-discrimination law, which I think we might be able to pass in the Senate if we have more advocates in the upper house.
Agriculture, anti-discrimination bill. What about sa droga, sa issue ng droga? How should the new government fight this war on drugs? Should it continue to adopt an ironclad, no-nonsense anti-drug policy?
Well, we have to look into the drug problem as a mental health problem. It's not just a matter of law enforcement. Of course, we always would have programs or a drive against criminality, a drive against drug addiction. But it's also a mental health problem. Kaya nga itong National Mental Health Law, which I was one of the authors, which is now passed, it's something that we can build upon. Because nagdodroga lang naman ang tao kung sila ay stressed, sila ay depressed. So when we look at health, it shouldn't be just the physical health, but also the mental health of Filipinos. It is also a social problem because of poverty. That's why people are forced to enter a life of crime, forced to be drug addicts. So those are the various dimensions of the drug problem. It's not just a law enforcement na kamao lang ang paraan, but we have to look also into the other social and mental health dimensions of the problem.
Teddy, before we end the first part of our interview, surveys are showing more familiar names leading this senatorial race. In the surveys that have been coming out, wala ka pa sa top 12 because you're up against long-time political personalities, and even some of them are from political dynasties. It will really be an uphill battle for you.
Yeah, it's something that I acknowledge. Sa Senado naman, it's about resources and popularity. It's a popularity game usually, no? So definitely, political dynasties have the advantage of logistics, the name recall. But I'd like to think that there's also a significant number of Filipino voters who are also looking for fresh faces. more progressive ideas, fresh ideas. Like ako, I'm bringing in the perspective of a Katatubo. A Katatubo who fights for nature, who fights for the environment. That is something that we rarely discuss in the national halls of discourse, the climate action, protection of our biodiversity. That is something that we, the Katatubo, can bring into the Senate.
And we will take this short break. We're speaking right now with former Congressman Teddy Baguilat. We will continue our conversation, up-close conversation with Teddy right after this. And we'll also give you a glimpse of what to expect once authorities allow more passengers in public transport tomorrow. Details next, right here on CNN Philippines. News you can use, news you can trust.
Of crime, forced to be drug addicts. So these are the various dimensions of the drug problem. It's not just law enforcement na lang ang paraan, but we have to look also into the other social and mental health dimensions of the problem.
Teddy, before we end the first part of our interview, surveys are showing more familiar names leading this senatorial race in the surveys that have been coming out. Wala ka pa sa top 12. Because you're up against long-time political personalities, and even some of them are from political dynasties.
Yeah, it's something that I acknowledge. Usually, no?
Welcome back to the final word on CNN Philippines. I'm Rico Hizon. We still have with us for up-close senatorial aspirant Teddy Baguilat. And Teddy, we have 2 minutes before the end of this interview, and I would like to ask you 6 questions, and please answer them with just a yes or a no. The first question is, do you favor easier public access to the statement of assets, liabilities, and net worth of the President, Vice President, and the members of Congress?
Definitely yes.
Do you support lifting foreign ownership limits in the Constitution?
No.
Do you favor the re-imposition of the death penalty for drug-related crimes?
No.
Should a sitting president be allowed to run for vice president in the next election?
No.
Do you favor resuming peace talks with communist rebels? And should the country be more aggressive in protecting its maritime interests in the West Philippine Sea?
Definitely.
And finally, Teddy, a brief message on why our kababayan should vote for you in the Senate in 2022.
Let's bring in other voices, representing indigenous peoples, representing the fight for nature, fight for the environment. It's something that I've been campaigning for the past 9 years in Congress. Let's also bring in variety in our national discourse. The reason why we're not having a lot of progressive laws that address the roots of our problems is because we have the elite class in the Senate who are entrenched because they are the ones that are elected time and again. It's high time that we bring in other voices from a variety of sectors in our society into the Senate.
Thank you so much for joining us on Up Close. Senatorial aspirant Teddy Baguilat.
Philippines Network, Zamboanga, Zamboanga. The Great 108. This is Radio Philippines Network, the power, the first, the leader.